So I'm a complete idiot. I completely forgot to save after stopping the recording for the last episode, so I had to play the whole game over. Now, I did make sure not to grow to level 7 and learn Leech Seed just yet, but if you do notice anything being off, then, you know, now you know the reason why. So I'm gonna talk to this drunk guy again. Well, he's not drunk anymore. Now he's got a hangover. He says that he has a headache. In the English version, they changed it to him just saying like, oh, I've had my coffee now. Something about this guy. Well, he's gonna teach me how to catch Pokemon now. And this whole section is very different in Yellow. Not only does he catch a different Pokemon, but the whole encounter is different. Instead of this being an optional NPC that you have to talk to, he instead just walks up to you when you try to, you know, walk past him, and there's no way to refuse him showing you the tutorial. Now, for the longest time, I thought they did that in order to fix the old man glitch, also known as the missing no glitch, even though that's kind of a misnomer because there are a lot of other Pokemon you can catch with that, basically every Pokemon in the game. So I thought they did that to fix... So I thought they changed that to fix the old man glitch, but that glitch isn't in the Japanese version at all. It's only in the localized games, and, well, Japanese Yellow came out before Red and Blue came out in the West, so, well, that explanation doesn't hold up. So I got to thinking, why did they change it? And it took me a while, but when it finally hit me, it suddenly seemed so obvious. It's the fact that, well, a lot of people don't talk to every NPC whenever they play an RPG, and that means if you didn't talk to this guy, you would have completely missed out on the tutorial on how to catch Pokemon, and you would be left completely in the dark about one of the most important mechanics in the game. So yeah, I can totally understand why they changed that. Although I still don't know why they don't give you the option of seeing the tutorial another time after that. Because here you can always go back and ask him to show you the tutorial again. But in Yellow, if you saw, he just had 50 Monster Balls. In Yellow, he only has 1. And after the tutorial, he walks back to the store to, you know, buy some more. And then he never comes back. So yeah, the old man glitch. It doesn't work in the Japanese version. Why is that? Well, the tiles that you walk on are 16 by 16 pixel tiles. But they're made up of four smaller 8 by 8 tiles. And what happens every time you take a step is that the game performs 2 checks. A, whether or not a random encounter can appear on this tile. Like if it's a grass tile or a water tile, then that's a yes, and if it's, you know, anything else, that's a no. The other check that it performs is whether, or rather, if a random encounter can appear on this tile, it checks what encounter list to pull from. Like, if you're on a grass tile, it pulls from the encounter list of Pokemon that can be encountered on grass, and if you're in water, it pulls from the encounter list of Pokemon that can be encountered in the water. The difference between the Japanese and Western versions is that in the Japanese version, both of these checks are performed on the bottom left subtile, meaning that if the bottom left subtile is grass, you're going to get an encounter, and it's going to be one of the Pokemon that can be encountered in the grass. In the Western version, for some ungodly reason, the check for whether a Pokemon can be encountered in the first place is moved to the bottom right subtile, while the check for the encounter list that it pulls from is still on the bottom left. I hope you can follow me so far, because I know this is kind of technical, but bear with me. So how does this relate to the old man glitch? Well, you know those right-facing shore tiles on Cinnabar Island? Or, well, you can really use any or left-facing shore tile. It depends on how you look at it, but they're generally they're called left-facing shore tiles. You can use any of them, but the ones on Cinnabar Island are just the most notorious. So those shore tiles, well, the right subtiles are on water, and the left ones are on land and not on grass, so there's not supposed to be any encounters there. So in the Japanese version, both checks are done on the land part of the tile, meaning there's no encounters there since it's on land and there's no grass. But in the English version, it checks the water half of the tile for whether or not there are supposed to be encounters there, which is a yes, since there are encounters when surfing on water. But it checks the land half for what Pokemon appear there. And since there's not supposed to be any Pokemon appearing on the land where there's no grass, there's no such data programmed for Pokemon to appear there. So instead it pulls the data from the last area you were at, or in case of you doing the old man glitch, it instead interprets the characters that make up your name as wild Pokemon data. So you can pretty much get any Pokemon in the game, including glitch Pokemon, including placeholders, including even glitch trainers. So if you could follow that even through my stuttering, that's the reason why the old man glitch doesn't work in the Japanese version. However, the weird change how the encounter checks work in the international version has yet another glitchy side effect, and it just so happens to be right here in Viridian Forest. Obviously you can't see it right now because I'm in battle, but pay attention when I'm back on the walking around screen, so to speak. Pay attention to the grass tiles. They're a bit different from most other grass tiles in the game in that there's these little inconsistencies. I think they're supposed to be grass that's just shaken up a little, but for the sake of simplicity, let's just call them flowers, because I've seen other people call them that. Notice, if you look very closely, you'll notice that these flowers only appear in the top left, top right, and bottom right of each tile, of any tile. Never in the bottom left. The programmers did it that way on purpose, because the flowers are not counted as grass tiles. So, if the encounter check would be done on on a flower tile, it wouldn't pull, grass data. It wouldn't count as there being wild Pokemon on that tile. But once again, in the English version, the check for whether there are Pokemon on any given tile is done on the bottom right subtile. So, in the English red and blue, any tile that has a flower in the bottom right will never hold a random encounter. And that's obviously a tactic that speedrunners use to get through this dungeon a bit quicker. For the record, the only other place in the game where such flower tiles exist, outside of Tokiwa Forest, is the Safari Zone. Now, most of the Pokemon you can encounter in this forest are what is known as the level 10 bugs, named after the fact that they reach their final form by level 10, making them attractive early game Pokemon. However, I'm not a fan of the concept of temporary team members at all, because, well, if you're gonna use them, they're gonna be temporary, because, well, yeah, they're attractive early on because they evolve early, but once they reach their final form, they're gonna start getting obsolete very quickly, and I'm not a huge fan of them, because if you're gonna use early Pokemon, like temporary team members, then... Oh shit, I ran out of Tackle PP. Well, I still got Leech Seed. The crappy Generation 1 version of Leech Seed, that is. Yeah, in any other generation, I think it recovers half the HP that it deals to the opponent as damage. In this generation, I think it's only a quarter. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, I'm not a fan of using temporary team members, because well, all the experience that you waste on a Pokemon that's gonna eventually just end up in PC box purgatory, all that is experience that could be going onto your permanent team members, and well, you're gonna need that experience for some of the harder battles later on in the game. If you reach like the Elite Four and you're under-leveled, well, that can get a bit tricky. Unless, of course, you actually plan on using one of the level 10 bugs for the Elite Four. But yeah, I don't think that's that good of an idea. Like I said earlier, they're not very good near the end of the game. And of course, the only person I've ever actually seen use one of them on the Elite Four lost because, well, he forgot that Bug is strong against Psychic and used the wrong move. Game Grumps. And yeah, I realized I could have just run from that battle and... You know what? I'm gonna go back to the Pokemon Center and heal. And I am going to run from battles from this point onwards. I don't usually like running away from battles or using repels or just not fighting trainers because really the experience is worth it. And I see so many Let's Players using like repels and going out of their way to like avoid trainer battles when and then complain when they get to a like some hard boss battle and they can't beat it. It's like, well, you wouldn't be having such a hard time if you would actually, you know, level up your Pokemon. And the idea of repels is just, not only do you waste experience, but in most cases, in order to get it, you have to buy it from a store. So you're not just wasting experience, but you're wasting money in order to waste experience. Yeah, not really a huge fan of that concept. And no, I'm not gonna cut out battles either because, well, I have a lot of stuff to say about this game that no one else really talks about, and fighting these random battles gives me some time to, you know, go on tangents like that and, you know, just talk about stuff. I have a list of topics written down that I want to talk about for this LP. And, you know, I'll gladly take the opportunity. And yeah, I said in the last episode that the dialogue with the nurse is a bit different the first time you talk to her than the second time or any other time after that. This time it showed the first time dialogue again because, like I said, I played through the entire game again and I never needed to heal because, well, I grew to level 6 from the first battle this time around. I won the first battle. So I instantly grew to level 6, and then after that I just ran from every battle in order to avoid, you know, making any progress that you haven't seen already. So something I promised to talk about in the first episode is my choice of starter. Now, I picked Fushigidane mostly because it's type effective against the first two gyms. Granted, Zenigame is also type effective against the first one, and Zenigame is also a very good choice, not knocking it. Fushigidane also has the added benefit of learning Sleep Powder, although in this game it learns it way late at level 55. It learns it much earlier in newer generations. But the last time I played through Yellow, it didn't learn it until after the Elite Four. So yeah, that's pretty damn late. But yeah, it kind of ruins the purpose of using a sleeping move on, you know, legendaries in order to make them easier to catch, if it doesn't even learn it when you get to those legendaries. But yeah, Fushigidane and Zenigame, both pretty good Pokemon. The noob choice I was referring to in the first episode is Hitokage. And that's not necessarily because it's a terrible Pokemon, it's more the fact that it's the exact opposite of Fushigidane, in that it's not very effective against both the first two gyms. And yeah, if you've ever tried to play with it, well, you're pretty much fucked. You have to basically catch another Pokemon before getting to the first gym. And I think that suckered a lot of people into getting one of the aforementioned level 10 bugs and using a temporary team member. And yeah, like I said earlier, not a very good idea if you ask me. Although in Fire Red and Leaf Green, they did balance it out by giving Hitokage Metal Claw, which makes it a lot more viable against Takeshi than, you know, with just Ember and Tackle. And it can be argued that the starter choice is sort of a difficulty choice, with Fushigidana being easy, Zenigame being medium, and Hitokage being hard, at least for the early game. The problem with that is that nothing tells you that the first gym leader is going to be a rock type and the second gym leader is going to be a water type. No one tells you that before you start the game. So if that's really supposed to be a difficulty choice, then I'd argue that's pretty bad game design. Like, imagine you're a little kid back in 1998 playing through this game for the first time. Well, you have no idea. Like I said, you have no idea what the gym leaders are, you have no idea what the type effectiveness are, and you just pick the one that looks cool, and, well, then you're stuck with the one that's not gonna really be of any use to you early on. And then, you know, you reach the first gym, and then you find that you suddenly can't advance, and then you'd have to start over again and try again with a different starter if you even think of doing that. And despite it being such a terrible starter choice, it is somehow the most overrated Pokemon in existence. Like, look anywhere on the internet for polls of best Pokemon ever. It's usually like Mewtwo at number 2, and then number 1, Charizard! Charizard is the best Pokemon ever! I swear, these, I like to call them Charitards. I don't get it. What is so cool about this thing? It doesn't even look cool. It's just the most generic looking ass dragon ever designed. If you want to see what good dragon design looks like, well, take a look at the Yu-Gi-Oh people. They got that shit down perfectly. And when it comes to starters, a fucking turtle with cannons coming out of his shell, that's what I call a badass looking Pokemon. Not some stupid dragon that with a little flame on its tail. Like, really? That's its defining feature? And this guy just gave me an introduction to repels, which are called sprays in the Japanese version. Yet another item that are supposed to be sprays. In this case, they're supposed to be like bug sprays. But once again, they're sprays. The English version doesn't really imply that they are sprays. So I'm gonna go in the Pokemon Center here. And there's this Pudding here. This is the first time the infamous Pudding song appears. It predates the anime. And something interesting is even in the English version, despite its English name being Jigglypuff, that Pudding still, its dialogue still says poo 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 poo, like its Japanese name, Pudding. So yeah, if you've ever wondered why it says poo 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 instead of Jigglypuff, that's because its Japanese name is Pudding. And that guy just gave us our first introduction to the Rocket Gang, also known as Team Rocket. I have some things to say about the translation Team Rocket rather than Rocket Gang. I used to like the Team Rocket translation, but I kind of changed my mind over time. But that's something I'm going to talk about a bit later on in the LP. For now, let's just go on and explore the city a little bit more. What are you selling? Okay, got Monster Balls, known as Pokeballs in the English version, because everything starts with Poke in the English version. More wound heals, an escape rope, and stat healing items. Okay, nothing I really need for right now. Escape ropes are kind of like repels in that I feel like they're an item that you buy in order to avoid random battles And once again, it's just kind of a waste of experience points in my opinion. If I want my way out of a dungeon, I'm gonna damn well just walk my way out myself, and I don't need any stupid items. And this guy is gonna take me, if I answer no to his question, if I've been there before, he's gonna take me to the museum, and we're gonna check that out next time. You'll hear me then. Okay, I'll show off this dialogue. Now, next time.